In the bustling African city of Ibadan, Kunal and Adesuwa lived in a modest home tucked within a quiet estate. From the outside, they appeared to be an ordinary couple, he a businessman, she a reserved homemaker. But behind their high walls, Adesuwa endured years of emotional and verbal abuse. Kunal, once a loving husband, had turned cold and dismissive, rarely speaking to her except to bark commands. What Adesuwa never revealed was that she came from a wealthy lineage. Orphaned young, her parents had left her a massive estate, stocks, and company shares, all managed quietly in her name. She wore simple clothes and lived frugally, choosing humility over extravagance. Her silence only fueled Kunal's contempt. Kunal had become enamored with a flashy, much younger woman named Mimi, a socialite from a wealthy family. To him, she represented status, luxury, and the escape from his boring wife. Mimi promised to introduce him to influential people who could boost his business, but insisted she wouldn't share a man. Eager to impress Mimi and secure his place among the elite, Kunal made a decision: he would divorce Adesuwa. He didn't even attempt to hide his intentions. At dinners, he would praise Mimi's beauty aloud and often leave Adesuwa home alone while he attended events with his soon-to-be second wife. One morning over breakfast, Kunal placed the divorce papers on the table like a menu. "Sign this," he said coldly, not looking her in the eye. Adesuwa stared at the papers but said nothing. He mistook her silence for defeat. She asked softly, "Are you sure this is what you want?" Kunal scoffed, replying, "I need a woman who brings value into my life." That was the last time she ever asked. Adesuwa quietly contacted her lawyer and prepared for court. News spread through the estate like wildfire: Kunal was divorcing Adesuwa to marry a younger, richer woman. Neighbors whispered, judging and speculating. Mimi, on her part, reveled in the attention. She posted photos with Kunal online and flaunted their relationship. Kunal was elated. He believed he was upgrading. He even borrowed against expected dowry gifts from Mimi's family. All the while, Adesuwa remained composed, never retaliating. Her silence unnerved a few, but Kunal took it as weakness. On the day of the court hearing, Kunal walked in with a smug grin. Mimi sat proudly beside him, dressed to impress. Adesuwa entered with her lawyer and 2 aides, wearing a clean white gown that glowed under the courthouse lights. She looked calm, serene, powerful. The judge asked both parties if they agreed to proceed. Kunal hastily signed the papers. Adesuwa signed, too, her hand steady. As the judge prepared to close the case, he reached for a separate file. Clearing his throat, the judge addressed Kunal. "As per division of assets, it is noted that Mrs. Adesuwa Ogunbayi owns real estate properties valued at over 1.2 billion Nigerian nairas, multiple bank accounts, shares in 3 major corporations, and is the primary beneficiary of Ogunbayi Holdings Limited." The courtroom fell silent. Kunal blinked rapidly. Mimi dropped her phone. "Excuse me?" Kunal asked, stumbling to his feet. The judge continued, listing more of Adesuwa's assets. His voice became a distant echo as Kunal's world began to crumble. Kunal collapsed to his knees before Adesuwa. "Adesuwa, I didn't know. Please, I made a mistake," he sobbed, his pride shattered. The woman he had humiliated was a billionaire, far richer than Mimi's entire family. He had given up a queen for illusions. But Adesuwa simply looked at him, eyes filled not with vengeance, but pity. "You never cared to know me. You just assumed I had nothing because I didn't flaunt it. Now you've signed the divorce, and I wish you well." Her voice was soft, but it cut deeper than a blade. Seeing Kunal kneeling and crying over his ex-wife's fortune, Mimi recoiled in disgust. "You told me she was nothing. You lied to me," she spat. She snatched her handbag and walked out of the courtroom without another word. Kunal chased after her, begging, pleading, but she didn't look back. To Mimi, Kunal was now just a broke, divorced man with a trail of embarrassment behind him. His castle of fantasies had collapsed in one swift judgment. Kunal returned to an empty home. His debts had piled up, and Mimi's family pulled out of all business agreements. Former friends avoided his calls. The same neighbors who used to envy him now pitied him. He tried contacting Adesawa several times, but her number had changed. She had moved into one of her luxurious properties, her life now freed from the shadow of a husband who never saw her worth. Kunal was left to reflect on what he had thrown away. Adesawa began investing more actively in charity work, especially women's empowerment. Her story inspired many women to know their value and never let silence be mistaken for weakness. She never remarried, but she lived fully, loved deeply, and healed completely. Kunal, meanwhile, became a cautionary tale told in hushed tones around estate tables, the man who traded a diamond for glitter, who divorced a billionaire to chase temporary beauty. And so, the city remembered not just the fall of a foolish man, but the rise of a woman who knew her worth all along.